Hello, my name is Ryan Gallagher. I'm the CEO of InfoWorks, and I'm thrilled that you joined us today. Today, we're continuing our webinar series and focusing on managing data, collaboration, and development in a cloud-based world. Thrilled to have three of our consultant thought leaders, Leslie Owen, Daniel Glenn, and Kyle Weaver, leading this panel discussion today. First question goes to you, Daniel. Why would an organization want to go to the cloud?
That's a great question to start us off with, Ryan. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Glenn. I am the collaboration practice lead here at InfoWorks. Have been with InfoWorks for a few years, about 11 now, and a Microsoft MVP. To answer that question, I just want to talk to what we are hearing from our clients and what we're seeing in the environment. So first off is cost savings and really reducing vendor complexity are some of those top reasons. Cost savings comes in several ways. We're talking about licensing, of course, but also support costs, upgrade costs that you may be going through on those on-prem environments, and as well as hardware cost. But there are other reasons that always come up, including new technology and innovation. It is no secret that innovation really is happening in the cloud and will continue to be the avenue for investment for providers. Your users want to really get help from those new tools to get their job done quickly and efficiently and be able to move on to the next task. So that innovation is key in the cloud. But more and more, though, managing risk and compliance and enhanced security have come more becoming motivating factors for organizations to look at the cloud. Microsoft is one of the largest cloud providers, sure, and their security efforts match their footprint with tools available really to provide any organization the most robust compliance tools in the market.
Fantastic. Thank you, Daniel. Kyle, how did the responsibilities of hardware and software management when changing from on-premise servers and applications to the cloud?
Yeah, so I'm Kyle Weaver. I've been with InfoWorks for 10 years. I started there as a full stack software developer and mainly now focus on solution architecture. I'm a certified Microsoft Azure Solutions Architect expert. And for your question, this kind of builds on some of what Daniel was saying. As you go from on-prem to the cloud, you have less ownership of the kind of stack that you're going to be building on top of. So if you're thinking on premises, you're in charge of managing, the networking, the storage, the servers, the virtualization, all those things kind of fall into your bucket. But as you move to the next tier up, infrastructure as a service in the cloud, it's going to be things like virtual machines. And at that point, everything I just listed is no longer in your court. Microsoft handles all the security, all the upgrades, they pay the power bills, they run the network cords, all that sort of stuff. As you go even further up the stack there, you reach what's called platform as a service. And at that point, depending on what you're doing, you're really only responsible for your applications, your data, and potentially the runtime if you're doing something like containers. And then the furthest tier is software as a service. There's a few things that would fall into that bucket on Azure. Most things are going to be more in the infrastructure or platform bucket. But at that point, you're not really doing anything but paying a company to handle everything for you. You just subscribe to a service. So in my mind, where you want to get to for the reasons Danny was saying for cost savings for all those different buckets, like you want to get to platform as a service if you can, because it's going to make everything a lot simpler and you can focus more on your product and building things. The other side of kind of responsibility is talking about security. And here, there's kind of a shared responsibility model when you're talking about the cloud, whether that's AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. And so the cloud provider is always going to be responsible for the physical security of the network. They make sure that their physical servers are secure, their physical locations are secure. And as you move, more from infrastructure to platform, they're going to make sure the OS is secure. They're going to make sure the OS is updated, all those sort of things. So again, the further you can sort of abstract yourself from the physical hardware, the less you have to manage when it comes to security. And so again, that kind of frees you up your resources to focus less time on those sort of things and more time on like what's important.
That's really interesting. Now, large organizations that have a lot of on-prem servers and applications, Imagine that it's very difficult to go move all that to the cloud all at once. What does a piecemeal approach look like?
Yeah, for sure. If you're a large organization, the idea of moving everything to the cloud could be just a completely daunting proposition to you. You might have thousands or maybe even dare I say millions of servers in multiple locations around the world. You might have tons of old code bases and legacy applications that are even written on languages as old as COBOL or old C++ or who knows what. That, can you host those in the cloud? And when you're looking at your infrastructure, maybe there is no well-documented single source of the truth about everything you have. It just kind of exists at this point, and you build on it as you need and you learn about it as you need to. But the idea of, wow, we need to rebuild all this, that's a huge task. Nobody really wants to take that on all at once. So you can sort of take a smaller hybrid type approach when you're first getting into, this cloud migration rather than breaking it all off at once. So there's kind of two ideas in my mind that what you could do. You could take something that you have already developed that's existing, whether that's, some sort of application or it could be some sort of storage solution, and basically rebuild it like you have locally in the cloud. And then basically build a site-to-site or point-to-site VPN between the cloud and your local servers, and then turn off the existing on-prem solution and point to the new solution in the cloud. And if you have everything set up right, it should be a seamless integration. You shouldn't even notice. And so by taking some sort of low risk existing project, you can sort of get your feet wet in the cloud without taking a huge risk on. The other way to really do it is sort of do a approach where you have some sort of new development you need, something that's going to require new hardware, whether that's more storage or you need application web servers or something else. Instead of buying more hardware, say, going forward, maybe let's try this. Let's try one application. Let's see if it works. And when you do it that way, rather than building out more virtual machines, taking an infrastructure as a service approach, you can take more of the platform as a service approach. Maybe use something like Azure App Service to host your web app, and then you can connect it back to your local network if you need to, and access data there. Or you can put your new data in the cloud. It really just depends on what your needs are. But again, that's another way you can sort of get your feet wet without diving all the way in. And once you kind of get one of those small hybrid type approaches under your belt, you can kind of evaluate it and you can make tweaks and you can say, this is what worked for us. This is what didn't work for us. And then you can start taking, bigger and bigger chunks off as you move along.
That's great. Sounds like a lot of flexibility and ways to kind of dip your toe in the water and get that level of comfort. Could you spend a minute talking about the Azure Resource Manager and the templates in place that help with the, they improve some of the cloud infrastructure as you're doing application development?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I've worked with before, and I thought it was the coolest thing when I found out about it. Basically, the way it works is, now, most of the time, if you're setting up infrastructure locally, it's a very manual process. You tell somebody, hey, I need this server, they provision it, they get it set up, they have to manually set the permissions, they have to do all these things. So there's a new approach, and this exists. Azure's version is the ARM template, but if you think of AWS, they have what's known as CloudFormation. But I'm going to focus on the Azure one. And the idea is you have infrastructure as code. So instead of just manually setting it up and filling out some long ticket that says, I need this, someone else goes and build it, you basically define everything that you need in this ARM template. And you can do it and you can store it in your, your Git repository with the rest of your code for whatever application you need. And then when it runs through your CI/CD pipelines, it's going to automatically provision all the resources. It's going to update any existing resources that you might have made changes to. And the great thing about this is it's idempotent. So, you can repeat it. You can deploy it and you'll see the same results every time. You won't see, in a local infrastructure where you might have little snowflake servers that are very unique and someone has tweaked them over the years and made a little setting change here and a setting change there. And you don't know, how does server A, B, and C, how are they different? It's tough to say. And so that can be hard to scale and see results when you're taking that approach. With the ARM templates, because it's all integrated, because it's repeatable, you can scale it really easily. So you can scale it to 10,000 servers if you want. You're going to see the same result every time. To different storage accounts, you can deploy it in dev and QA, and you know that because I've deployed and created this infrastructure this way and these lower environments, I can expect to see the same thing when I go to production. It also has some other cool features like built-in validation and what-if scenarios. So you can say, well, what if I try to do this? Is it going to work? And it will say yes or no, or you're not allowed to do that. And the best thing about it, in my mind, is that it's all dictated by policy. And this is very important because if you don't have those policies in place, I've been a developer, so I would say, oh, I want to spin up, the most fast, expensive virtual machine I can. I want to see how fast my app can run on that. Sure, it's $150 an hour, which is over $100,000 a month, but that wouldn't matter to me. And so luckily you can use policy to control this. You can say they can only deploy to, the East servers in Azure in this specific resource group that's tied to this specific project. And they can only use, these cheap servers in dev, but if they go to prod, they can use more expensive. And so you have all that control, but you give a lot of the responsibility back to your development team to define their own infrastructure.
That's outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Leslie, data is a key component of this. So could you share with us what a data migration project looks like?
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. First of all, I'm Leslie Owen, and I've been with InfoWorks for about 13 years. So I am the resident senior data architect as well as data analyst. So I've done everything data related, data warehousing, all the way up to data analytics and reporting. So data migration, yes. As Kyle said, there's lots of different flavors or lots of different approaches that we can take. But as far as InfoWorks goes, the first thing we would like to do is we just come in and we just do an assessment. Like what is your current on-prem footprint? What does it look like? What types of data sources do you have? Where do they live? The size of those? What's an optimal way to migrate those? And what is the tools that we would use? Because there's a lot of migration tools out there. So we would just come in and do an assessment. We would work with you on developing a migration plan and strategy based on that assessment. Look at the resources that you have so we can partner with you to fill in the gaps where you may not have resources that are cloud resources. So we would come in and you would use our expertise in that area to get you up to speed and to work with you to implement that migration plan for you. And as Kyle said too, you may not take all of your products, all of your applications to the cloud at once. It may be too big of a project, so we can break it down into some low-hanging fruit. Like what are the most priority? What are the priorities that you have? What are the maybe some of the new things that you want to do? So we'll work with you and just see what your future needs are and scope that out and deliver.
Outstanding. And one of your areas of expertise is the Azure Database. How does an organization figure out what the best database to fit their needs?
There's just as Kyle had mentioned, there's the infrastructure as a service, there's the platform as a service. So once we come in and do the assessment, then we decide on what's best fit for your organization and where you want to be and what your needs are. So do you want the infrastructure as a service? That's going to be a quick migration to Azure. So it's going to reduce costs. So you'll look at the platform as a service. Are you going to have an Azure SQL managed instance, or are you going to have an Azure SQL database? So what's the best fit for you based on the assessment when we come in and look at what your goals are?
Outstanding. And Daniel, we talked about how important and complex these migrations could be. With the numerous projects that you've worked on, what are the most frequent kind of struggles or challenges that organizations encounter?
Yeah, it's every organization is unique, but there are definitely challenges that organizations share when they're going into a migration project. One of those, and it is kind of a big bucket, but it is planning. Knowing that this migration, whether it's data, infrastructure, or collaboration, such as SharePoint or file shares or processes moving to automation in the cloud, there needs to be proper planning. And it is a large component of the project as well. The project is not going to, on the first week, start migrating content, migrating your processes, maybe in test, but it is not going to be something where your project is going to get kicking and running you have to proper plan. And knowing your organization's team structure matches or doesn't 100% match up with cloud tools and how those are going to be morphed, how they need to be maybe changed to accept that new technology within your teams. Another struggle is refreshing operating procedures for your organization so that when it's translated to those tools in the cloud, how do you need to change the way you work? How do you need to change the way you collaborate within your organization, from everything from communicating one-on-one to communicating as a team via sharing content with each other? How are you going to do these? And it can't be the same way you're doing it on-prem. It could be similar, but you need to take a fresh look at the way you're doing your business as well. You really need that executive leadership buy-in when you are looking to migrate to the cloud from the very beginning. Is this an initiative that you will be able to really do right? Proper planning, looking at procedures across the organization, looking at how you do business and how it's going to fit in the cloud. You need that executive buy-in so that everyone is on board, everyone is facing in the same direction and marching forward with the goal of accomplishing this task. And really the last I will mention that we see is very common is some organizations really underappreciate the role adoption and change management has when implementing new collaboration tools. They think sometimes that going from, let's take SharePoint, for instance, SharePoint on-prem to SharePoint online, it'll be an easy transition because, hey, it's the same technology. Well, it's not. It is not the same technology. The underpinnings are similar, absolutely. Screens are going to be different. The functionality is going to somewhat be different. The integration definitely is going to be different. And understanding how users work, understanding how they need the tool to operate so they can get their job done or change the way they get their job done is very important. And adoption is not training. Training is a part of adoption. But adoption is more than just showing someone how to do it. It is getting that buy-in from users, from your power users. Some call those maybe ninjas, or those in your organization that are champions for technology within your groups, within your organization, empowering them to help you do change management in your organization.
That's great. And how can InfoWorks assist with some of these challenges?
Oh, yeah, we can help in all of those and more to really get you from your initial thoughts of should we go to the cloud to executing that migration. We can be your trusted provider in not only tool selection, but also, clicking the buttons, making the migration happen, and mitigating those issues that come along the way. We really bring our expertise in working with clients across business verticals to guide you to the best model for your organization in collaboration. Like I mentioned earlier on that, organizations are all unique, but we all have some common threads, and bringing that expertise around collaboration is something that we as InfoWorks can really help you do. We can also help you dig in, ask the appropriate questions, and nail down, your business processes. Like I mentioned before, bring a fresh eyes into the equation. Sometimes that is the toughest thing to do, is take a fresh look at the way you do things and see how you might improve it instead of just that's the way we've always done it. Well, a migration is a great time to look at those processes because you're going to have to match those to that technology, like I mentioned before. So we can really help you do that in that migration and improve your processes if needed. And if we of course have the people that know their tech, and we can really be those migration experts for you if you lack those technical resources to do the migration itself.
That's great. Leslie or Kyle, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I'll add to it then. So kind of what Daniel was saying, we definitely have the people, we have the experience. One thing we definitely bring as consultants is because we have traveled across different industries, across different clients, different companies. I've seen probably a dozen plus ways different companies have utilized the cloud for themselves. And so it gives me a lot of different perspectives because there's not exactly one perfect solution for every business in this space. There's a lot of ways you can do the same thing. And so getting to see all these different approaches and understanding what's worked for different clients and what maybe hasn't worked for them has given me a lot of knowledge around, how can we take what you have and turn it into the perfect solution for you? I think that's something we can certainly bring to the table.
That's great. Leslie, anything from you?
Yeah, I think how we've helped people on the data side is a lot of things that we see out there is, people have gotten up and running maybe in the different analytics tools that are out there. They're easy to use, they're easy for to learn, but then they get into themselves in a situation where they see some performance issues, they see some different data sources, and so then they kind of outgrow their technical expertise. So that's where we can come in and start looking at laying a better foundation for them to increase their performance in their reporting, whether that be through Power BI or Tableau. Maybe they need the data migrated up into an Azure reporting database or a data warehouse. That's where so we can help in all those areas where we can increase their performance and productivity. Help them with their data integrity. A lot of times, especially if you have a lot of data sources and a lot of people going in different directions, with the data, there's not really any one true source of data and the truth of data. So we can consolidate that and help people feel more confident in the data that they have by centralizing that in one location in the cloud.
Excellent. This last question is for the group. What benefits and successes have you seen from our clients making the move to the cloud?
I'll start, if that's okay. Really, I mentioned risk and compliance earlier, and I think that is something that we have seen for our clients have a great benefit when they know they can report on their environment, they can monitor what's going on, be compliant with governmental and other regulations and standards. It is so relieving to be able to say, I know where my data is, I know what that data is doing, who's collaborating on that content, those documents, those news items, those messages and teams. I can manage that. I can understand what's going on and have that compliance. And at any time, I can respond to requests for information concerning that. And it's also really exciting to see users grabbing onto the new technology, the innovations that are happening. Of course, over the past several months, many months, I guess I should say, a year and a half, 2 years, we have moved to a different model, this kind of a hybrid model for a lot of organizations where people are having to work remotely or from home, and just seeing organizations, helping those organizations utilize Teams and the other technologies in Microsoft Stack to collaborate with one another and do the best that is out there. I mean, it's best of class to get them to be able to collaborate and continue doing business, but not just continue, but really our goal for our clients is to excel. We don't want you to just get by. We're here to help you excel, and not just, I want to break even. We want you to be able to, like I mentioned before, help you find those tools that can help you get your job done and move on to other things that can bring value to your business.
That's great. Leslie, how about you?
Yeah. I think the things that we've seen as far as just migrating data to the cloud is, again, just being able to consolidate the information, whether it's within a data lake, being able to report off that, doing more comprehensive analytics, being able to pull information together. It's amazing the insights that you can gather whenever you start doing that and doing analytics and involve AI with that. It just opens up a whole new world of quicker response times where companies can be more proactive instead of reactive to the businesses that are going around them.
Fantastic. Kyle?
Yeah, for me, I can think of one specific example where the cloud really helped the client save a lot of money, because in the cloud, it's very much pay for what you use is kind of the concept. And so they had a product where usage was very sporadic. I mean, they knew when it was going to happen, but at nights it might hit 0% for 8 hours. And then during the day, it'll peak. On the last Friday of the month, it gets wild. And so, they basically had to have hardware in place to handle that one peak that happened once a month. And they had to make sure they were prepared to that. So when they went to the cloud, since they knew their usage patterns, they could plan ahead and basically scale up and down to the point where at night it cost them almost no money. On weekends, it cost them almost no money. And they were still ready for those intense peaks that would happen, every last Friday of the month. And so by doing that, they were able to save a ton of money, and it was great.
That's fantastic. And really, I think the three of you brought to life the exciting times we're in, and that the cloud transformation and adoption are enabling innovation, scale, and security like we've never seen. And we are just thrilled to be at the epicenter of that and have thought leaders like Leslie, Daniel, and Kyle to help our clients navigate that and maximize these benefits and ensure that they're at the cutting edge. So I want to thank our audience for joining today. I would like to thank Kyle, Leslie, and Daniel. If you have any questions or anything at all we can do, please reach out to us through our website, InfoWorks-TN.com. And we are going to be doing a series with each of our thought leaders, a deeper dive from Kyle, Leslie, and Daniel on each of their centers of excellence. And we're really excited to have that out to you all in the coming weeks. And again, thank you for joining, and best of luck to you all.